We are now situated in a period of the calendar year, a very significant period, sandwiched in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah is the anniversary of the creation of humanity. Yom Kippur is the day that humanity was given the opportunity to correct itself and to redeem itself. So these are very awesome times that serve as a basis for understanding who we are, what is our purpose, what is the objective of God in creation, and what is the relationship between the Jewish people and the rest of humanity. There is a basic theme that you hear about from all different segments of Jewry, and that is that Judaism is about Tikkun Olam. Literally translated, it means repairing the world. And the way it's understood in contemporary terms is that the Jewish people believe that their mission and their function in this world is to pursue social justice, to make sure that the world is run in accordance with the norms of civilization. Jews should be at the forefront of different efforts to protect the environment, and so on and so forth. That's the notion that has become very much popular in recent times. But if we look at the word Tikkun Olam and the way it's understood in our liturgy, in our writings, Talmudic writings, and in the teachings of mysticism, Tikkun Olam is a much broader concept. In fact, when we think about the word Tikkun Olam in terms of it being pursuit of social justice, it begs a question. Why is that a Jewish imperative? Isn't that what everyone should be involved in? Isn't it somewhat insulting to a non-Jew who's told that Judaism is about Tikkun Olam? Well, what about us? Don't we do Tikkun Olam? Don't we strive for social justice? So why are we less Jewish than you? And the truth of the matter is that the Jewish people, in addition to whatever responsibilities humanity as a whole has, have special commandments, 613, which are relevant to the Jewish people exclusively, and to anyone who's not Jewish who wishes to convert in accordance with Jewish law. They too become part of this mission of 613, as opposed to the 7 Noahide commandments, the 7 categories of commandments that are given to all of humanity. So Tikkun Olam, in the sense of social justice, is really not what defines the Jewish people's purpose in this world. We're not excluded from it, God forbid. We are here to make sure the world is a civilized and decent world, and a world that's run by justice and righteousness, but that's not the extent to which we have responsibilities. They go way beyond that. So let's try to understand what is Tikkun Olam in the simple sense of the word, and then the way it's understood in Jewish law and the way it's understood in Jewish mysticism. The simple meaning of Tikkun Olam is taken from biblical verses and from our prayers, where we say that the purpose that we have here is litakein olam b'malchut shin daled yud, that our mission here is to correct the world, to perfect the world under the sovereignty of the Almighty. That's a very key addition. Tikkun Olam by itself is not the whole picture. The whole picture is that we're here to correct the world, to perfect the world, to fix the world, so that the whole world shall recognize God's exclusive sovereignty. In simple terms, it means to get rid of idol worship and all the values that idol worship entails. So to say that a Jew is here just for social justice limits what the whole purpose of social justice is. Social justice ultimately is here to make the world receptive to the presence of a creator, an almighty. And conversely, if one has the appreciation for the divine, for the role of God as the exclusive king of the world, sovereign of the world, that itself makes sure that social justice will endure. What happens if our social justice is based on secular humanism? It's based on our ideas. Well, in some situations, our ideas might very much conform to the teachings of the Torah, and they're good and they're fine, but there's no guarantee that they'll last. The same people who come up with ideas of social justice could turn it around and work in the opposite direction. You see how values change. To use an example, 100 years ago, abortion was probably very unpopular in society. People felt it was immoral, unethical. Today, you have a significant portion of society that thinks that it's acceptable, that it's okay. And I'm not going to go into the subject of abortion itself. Suffice it to say that Judaism is not pro-abortion. Judaism does allow abortion in certain emergency cases, which we won't go into right now. But I'm just trying to illustrate the idea that our values change. Values don't stay in one place if they're based on secular, humanistic, rational ideas. In order for values, morality, to remain constant, to remain solid, unbending, unyielding, it has to be based on the foundation of Tikkun Olam b'malchus shin daled yud. We're fixing the world that it should fit into God's plan, recognizing that God is the creator and he is the master of the world. In fact, the Hebrew word Tikkun Olam could be translated on a deeper level. The word Olam, we have pointed out many times, comes from the root word helem, concealment. That God created a world by design in which his presence is concealed. What is our role? It's to repair that breach. That's a lacuna. That's something that's lacking in this world. And we have to repair that and fill it in. That's what it means, Tikkun Olam, to repair the world, to make sure that the world is no longer concealing its divine existence. That's the first level of Tikkun Olam. And in terms of our responsibility is to impart Tikkun Olam, social justice based on the belief in one God, and that God gave the world its mission at Mount Sinai. That's our obligation to impart to the whole world. As Maimonides explains, based on the Talmud, that it's the responsibility of the Jewish people to teach the 7 Noahide commandments to the rest of society. And it's hinted in this week's Torah portion of Hazinu, which we always read either before Yom Kippur or after Yom Kippur. What does the Torah say in this parsha? The way Rashi explains it, that there are 70 nations of the world that emerged from Noah after the flood, and there were 70 descendants of Jacob that went into Egypt. Why is it 70 here and 70 there? That the 70 root nations are influenced and should be influenced by the 70 root Jewish people. In other words, the Jewish people's responsibility here is to spread the message of the 7 Noahide commandments, which involves social justice, to be sure, but more than that, it has to be based on the belief in one God and the negation of idolatry. But then there's another level of Tikkun Olam we find in the Mishnah and the Talmud, and that refers to rabbinic enactments that were there to protect the integrity of Jewish laws. So this has nothing to do with the rest of society. This is simply a method to protect the integrity of Jewish law, that things should not go awry. That's a very parochial form of Tikkun Olam. And then there's a third level, the one that's based on Kabbalah, on Jewish mysticism and Hasidic philosophy. There's a belief that is taught that every physical thing in this world possesses sparks of holiness that were embedded and imprisoned, if you will, in the physical objects, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's housing, whatever it is that's physical, has these very potent sparks of holiness that in some ways are more powerful than the sparks of holiness that we have within ourselves, within our souls. And our mission that God gave us was to extricate, to liberate those sparks, to cause those sparks to emerge from their imprisonment within the physical world. And how do we do that? By using physical objects and physical experiences to serve God. So every time we put on tefillin, we are using the leather boxes. So we're taking the sparks from the leather and revealing them, and thereby energizing the world with more spirituality, with more godly energy. And likewise, the food that we eat, when we eat kosher food and we recite a blessing before, and if we eat enough of it, a blessing after, we liberate those sparks. And the more sparks are liberated, the world becomes inundated, flooded with godly energy to the point where we bring the Mashiach, we bring about the Messianic age, when the holiness that will spread throughout the world will cancel all the darkness and negativity, and this will be a world, a perfect world, a world that will really be perfected. So that's the process of tikkun. We're repairing the world, we're fixing the world by removing the sparks of holiness from the physical objects with which we come in contact with, and the things that we imbibe in ourselves, that we ingest in ourselves, and every contact that we have with the physical world generates, when it's done with the purpose of serving God, generates this holiness and spreads to the whole world. So in conclusion, Tikkun Olam has three basic levels. There's one level where we repair the world so that the world recognizes one God, and a God that wants us to make the world a civilized place, an inhabited place, so people could live in a normal way. That's something, a message that we have to spread to the whole world. And that's the message of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is when God created humanity, and all of humanity has a purpose. But within that purpose, the Jewish people were singled out with extra obligations, and these extra obligations have to be protected and preserved by rabbinical enactments that are there to preserve the integrity of the laws of the Torah. And then we have the third level where we elevate everything in this world and liberate the sparks, which spreads to the whole world and ultimately will get rid of the darkness and bring the coming of Mashiach imminently.